It's 8:30. Good morning from KWBE. It's time now for our Ask the Mayor program that comes to you every Thursday morning as we welcome in Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan to our studios, back into us with our talk about city issues. Good morning, Mayor. How are you?
Dave, good morning. Doing great. Doing great.
A little crispy this morning in the weather.
Got to remember, it's October 23rd, and it's still pretty good.
It is, yeah.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and we'll just keep on moving, taking this nice weather while we can, because we all know, inevitably, it will change.
It will change. I was mentioning earlier this morning about took my dogs for a walk last night in Hannibal Park, and there was no breeze. The sun was setting, and it was just gorgeous.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was just beautiful. But yeah, those nights I'm sure are numbered. So
that's right. Anybody who would come and visit for a couple of weeks in Nebraska right now would go, wow, this is the best weather in the nation. Might not have that same opinion December 26th.
Could change before the end of the year, yes. Well, let's talk a few things here when it comes to the city of Beatrice. Of course, we want to remind folks that if you do have a question, feel free to call us, 402-228-5923. Riley, our office manager, will jot that question down and pass it along to us here in our studios this morning. That's 5923. Go ahead and give us a call. Last night was an open house for a water park, and how did everything go last night?
Well, it was lightly attended. I guess we always would like to have more input. As we think about it, the open houses are an opportunity time to kind of share. However, having the survey out there helped a lot, because the survey, said things we probably expected on a new water park. People really would like to see a lazy river. People would like to see taller slides that have more twists and turns, and those things that you do see at a number of water parks that have gone through that evolution. Things that probably weren't even on the radar screen 25 or 30 years ago when this park was built. So there was a lot of neat ideas. The company, I think, is laying out 3 different types of concepts that they'll share. And one of them, or 2 of them at least, maybe all 3, may even consider using the same basin that we have as for the swimming pool, but just adding on a lot of these features. The pool's in pretty good shape, which is really good, because one of the things that I will just say again, we're talking about the possibility of a new pool probably in 2029 to 2032, somewhere in there. So there's a lot of time. But this gives the company that we hired the opportunity now to work this winter on a couple of concepts that they can present to the city council probably sometime in the spring. And that concept is really important because, first of all, it's your guiding path into that next venture of a new pool. But it also is kind of an opportunity to have, something that you could share in case you could go after and find a grant that would help you do that. Because we found with the reroute and the master concept plan that we had there, that was really one of the things that helped us when people could see what we wanted to do and where we were going. And so I'm excited to see what really comes out of that. One of the things that they basically kind of shared was kind of 3 skeletal concepts. One was basically kind of just resurfacing the pool. One was adding a few features, and then, of course, the last one was the grandioso one that had a really, really nice lazy river and a really super-duper slide and some of the other fun things that you'd bring in. I think there was a lot of interest of zero entry pool, and you see a lot of that. And so time will tell what they come back with us at the city council, but we have time, but it's always good to plan ahead.
The link for the survey on the website, is that still active, or when will that close out?
For the most part, that's probably going to close out if it hasn't already.
Okay.
But again, I'm sure there'll be some opportunities for people to look at the concept, once we decide on one and have some input there as well. So input is still also always wanted and always needed.
Okay. All right. And this will be the last. Yeah. This will be the last open house.
It will.
until maybe the next step of the whole project.
Absolutely. Now they need to go and they need to work on the concepts. They need to work out what maybe the costs would be, and so there's a lot of things that they're going to have to do before they can bring it back to us again.
Is there a dollar figure out there yet, or not? Or is that something?
No, there is not.
Okay,
no,
all right.
There isn't. I'm sure it won't be an inexpensive process. I just don't have a way to guess.
But as you said, grants, there is a possibility that there are some grants out there.
Absolutely, and we certainly have had some good success with grants. I think between 2022 and 2025 to date, we've been able to pull in close to $40 million in grants. So, that helps us do this without a huge burden to our constituents of the city.
Okay. So, you look at the present water park, when you look at that, I can't recall any major issues that you've had, that we've had problems that we've had to repair or correct or anything. I mean, it's been a pretty good park, hasn't it?
It has, and they went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and they had a few, I should say just a number of things. After 25 years, you can imagine, in your house you have these things that sometimes I put off, but eventually they need repaired. But they had a number of things that weren't really put off by any means, because I think our parks has done a really good job with Mark Peathott of keeping the pool up. There's a few things that were, age where they're wearing out, but all in all, the pool is in good shape. And that's important because we're not talking about tomorrow for the new pool. We're talking in 2030.
Right. All right. Well, we'll look forward to hearing more on that as the group puts those plans together. And you said probably next spring that could come to the council?
I'm thinking that. I'm not 100% sure. We'll let them work on it and have it come back.
All right. Looking forward to it. Okay. You did meet this last Monday. The Beatrice City Council did have a meeting, and in that you did mention talk about the new contract with the Beatrice police officers.
Oh, absolutely. We have, 4 different unions. We got fire, we got police, we got IBEW, and I'm forgetting one. But nevertheless, we did meet with the police department or the police union. Things went very, very well on both sides. Made a few changes. I think we ratified an increase of 2.75 for this year, and then it's a 2-year contract, so the following year is at 3.0, which really kind of fits in the guidelines of the Consumer Price Index and some of those other benchmarks that we use to make sure that we're fair and equitable, not only to the fire union or the police union, but also to the city. And so one of the things that we did do is we added a step in there to kind of separate the police officer and the sergeant. To kind of go up a step there, certainly because there is a supervisor and an employee relationship there that needs, I think, some separation, and so I think that was good as well. I will say it went really well. I know Tobias had met with them a number of times, and for most of the part, when we work with the unions that we have, we really work pretty hard to try to make sure that it's a mutual experience, a good mutual experience for both sides.
Okay. Are we fully staffed at the police department at this time? Or are we... I know they were looking for an officer, I think, earlier in the summer.
I think we might be one down, but I do know we've had applications. That's kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if people know that, but, our police force, our police officers are civil service employees. And so we do have a civil service commission made up of 3 individuals from the city of Beatrice. And the interview process, of course, they would go through the normal interview process with the people at the police department. But then they also will have an interview with the Civil Service Commission Board. And then the Civil Service Commission Board will basically submit 1, 2, or 3 names for the hiring process. And so a lot of people, I guess our age, we understand there's a Civil Service Commission, and
Right.
that's been around for a long time, but some people may not really realize that the Civil Service Commission does play an important part when we hire police officers and when we hire people from the fire department.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah.
All right. We'll take a break. We're going to come back, have more with the mayor right after this as our Ask the Mayor program continues. Back on Ask the Mayor with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan this morning. Again, if you have a question, 402-228-5923. Feel free to call that number, and we'll get your question passed along during the program this morning here on KWBE. Did have a question from a listener just noticing all the construction with the playground equipment that's been going on. Are we done with that, or are we still working away on that?
We are still working away on that.
Okay.
I think there's a couple more that need to be installed. I know they're working at Chautauqua Park. It's amazing, because it is a complete redo, because you got to make sure you meet a lot of specific requirements between safety and ADA and all of those things. I think I've said it before. A playground can cost you $150,000 to $200,000 now. I do know that there's a playground slated to go in. We'll probably take a little bit more time when they get done with Stoddard Place, where they're redoing Stoddard School. Mm-hmm. There was a planned park there when the school closed, and so there'll be some playground equipment there. There'll be a playground equipment. It's mapped out. I can't remember some of the other stages, but we probably got 1 or 2, maybe 3 to go yet.
Okay.
It's just a process of getting rid of the older equipment, and what people say, well, what do you do with the older equipment? Well, it doesn't meet standards, so it's really tough to do anything but disassemble and get rid of it, because of a lot of liability issues that are around today that may not have been around 10 years ago.
Right. How do you decide? How does the city decide which piece of equipment to get? I mean, do you go online, do you do a little shopping, say, hey, this looks fun, or how do you decide what to bring in for the city?
Well, it starts with the parks and with Mark Pethod.
Mm-hmm.
They search a number of vendors. And, again, you look at what's new and what you can afford. And one of the things that we try to do is we do a number of playground equipment that we're putting in. I think there's, a number of those. So what we look at is what can we do in each location, but getting the equipment from the same vendor, you're talking about the same replacement parts and those type of things, and consistency is important. It's a matter of staying up with that. It's amazing when you think about the Parks Department. We have Mark Pethod, who leads them as the department head, and we have, I think, 4 employees, and the rest are part-time. And we have 12 or 13 parks. But when you think about the parks, their other job is also to maintain all of the buildings that we have. And so it's pretty amazing that we get everything done that we do in that area. It's one of the areas that, certainly they do a great job, and certainly we appreciate them. And I would venture to say there's not a lot of communities that have what we have that can do it on a staff of 4. So
Parks look great, though. I will
They do.
say. I
They
do
do.
love going to our parks.
They do. And that's one of the things, I guess, as mayor that I learned. Sitting on the city council, making the transition from city council to mayor was like, oh, I got this. What the heck? I've been on the city council for 8 years. I got this. Well, you really don't see as much of the city or the interworkings of the city until you are mayor. And, I will tell you that I've said it before and I'll say it again. One of the greatest assets that we have are our employees. They're very active in the community. They care. Some of them, when they're on call, get up at 3 a.m. in all kinds of weather. They keep the electricity going. They keep the water going. They keep the parks going. And they're an integral part that makes Beatrice a great place to live. And so I totally appreciate those that work for the city and how they put their best foot forward. they're there for events. I know we've got one coming up tonight, and I think it continues to grow, that some of them might be there. I think tonight's the Night of the Great Pumpkin.
Night of the Great Pumpkin this evening, yeah.
Main Street puts on a really nice event for basically the children.
Yep.
Unless, like me, I'm still an adult, and I'm still waiting at 68 years old to grow up, but someday I'll make that. But yeah, I am. It's one of those surprising things as you move from one seat of council to mayor, to see all the folks that work for the city and do the great job that they do.
Yeah. Very well said. Very well said. Before we take our next break, let's just get an update on the housing developments.
Okay.
I know we touch on that on every program just to kind of get an update. And I know I was driving down Lincoln Street yesterday. They're moving quite rapidly there at 6th and Lincoln. No, 19th and Lincoln, not 6th and Lincoln. Get my bearings right here.
I was going to say, Sheriff's Department might want to know what's going on.
We just took away the courthouse and made a housing development there.
Both of those are making really good progress. They have poured several streets. I think they were pouring this week. They're pouring 15th Street out at Corral Crossing. I think both cul-de-sacs are in now. Some of those just kind of the end attachments and the little pieces that are kind of left. The sidewalk's been poured. I know all the sewer and sanitation is in. The water is in. So they're making some really good progress there. Then you jump over to Lincoln. Yes, they're making great progress there. They're working on sewer and sanitation right now. Followed behind by our folks that'll put in the water. And then once the water's in, they'll move and start paving again over there. They may use the same model. I don't know they did on Corral Crossing, where they might do the sidewalk first. I'm not totally aware of how the pattern goes, but that's kind of their call, not ours. But yes, it's moving quite along. And, it's going to bring, 28 living units will be available at Corral Crossing, lot-wise, and units for Heritage Heights is going to be 20. You add that into Stoddard, which is it's going to be pretty amazing to see how that remodel turns out. I think there's 26 units there that are 55 plus. And then, of course, we know at the Paddock they're working on a number of units there. There's some other developments going on. There's the Beatrice Commons, which is another housing development that's going to go out, I think, by the YMCA. So all in all, it's going to be by, probably I know the end of maybe next summer, we're going to have the opportunity to have between 100 and 120 living units, lots, whatever you want to call them, available for people, which, one of the comments that we always say is Beatrice has been 12,500 for years. Well, with a number of limited housing that you have, we're kind of locked into that. And so now we hope this will start driving a little bit of an increase in the number in our population. So we're doing a great job there. It's one of those economic drivers you have to have, and we will continue to try to improve our housing opportunities.
If you go to the city's Facebook page, in the last 24 hours or so, they did post some photos of the housing development with I think the sewer going in. And all that. It's fun to look at those photos because there's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
So it's neat to look at those.
I'm just amazed because it's being in more accounting and marketing areas in my brain for most of my life, but I'm just amazed at how architects and engineers can draw up these plans and get the slope right so it drains, and then as they pull streets in, they can start on one side and another side, and they completely match up. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I got to go from one end to the other because I couldn't make that match up. I'd be off a half an inch or an inch, and people would go, what happened there? So I just, that's why I say, kids will ask, well, what should I be when I grow up? And it's like, what you're really interested in, because if you love what you do, the adage is what? You really never have to work a day in your life because you love what you do. And we need all those type of people. We need the people that have that skill that can do that. I don't have it, but it's a great thing to have.
Let's take a break. 8:52. We'll come back, wrap it up after this here on KWBE. Well, we're coming up on 5 minutes before the hour. Just a few minutes left in our program here on the Ask the Mayor program on KWBE. We did get a call here, got a question. Listeners just is asking, what are the people protesting by the courthouse usually on Sundays?
Well, I believe it's a group of individuals that are exercising their rights to protest what's happening in Washington right now. One of the things that you learn, whether it was at the college or in the city, sidewalks are public, and I guess they're exercising their rights because they don't necessarily agree what's going on in Washington, D.C. And so I know they've been doing that for a while.
Yeah.
I do know that that's probably county grounds because it's a county courthouse. I know from the county perspective, one of the things they do fear is just at least to make sure everybody are safe and a safety issue, because that is a highway and it is a busy road.
Yeah, I believe at the last county board meeting, I think County Attorney Roger Harris made a couple comments about the safety there.
I think there was something there. So
because there's that's a really busy area there, and I think they were a little concerned about that. But
so that's really all I know about those events. It's really not. I just one of those things that I am not involved with and won't be.
Okay. We thank the listener for the question this morning. We got just a couple minutes left. Just want to recap a little bit on Monday night's Beatrice City Council meeting. You did appoint Council President Mike McLean to serve as the city's representative in discussion about a merger that we may be seeing between Main Street and NGage and the Chamber.
Yes, he has been our representative to NGage, and so it was really logical. He's also been involved in a lot of the conversations about the merger of the three organizations. I think there comes a point in time in a lot of cities where they have to ask themselves, are they doing duplication of efforts? What's the best use of dollars? What's the best use of volunteers and of the organizations, and are we running into a situation where we're just overlap? So I think that they decided that it was a great time to take a look at this, and I think they've been studying the merger for about a year, maybe a little more than that. And I think they are going to move forward, from what I understand, and we'll still keep the main principles of economic development and working for the betterment of Gage County, and eliminate a number of duplications that they see that are there. And so, I think you've got a strong group of folks that really have a vision for the future. And I think they're seeing and saying this is a better way that we can really benefit not only the city of Beatrice, but for Gage County. Mm-hmm. And so, as I said when I met with that group, that, I appreciate them taking on such a challenge. We know things don't always stay the same, and this could be a great opportunity, but the basic group is going to have to work very hard as you try to bring three groups together. So, in the future, we're looking for hopefully a bright spot with a new organization that will replace the three, eliminate some duplications, and really add to Gage County and the city of Beatrice.
I know there are sometimes people get a little misinformed. I know there's sometimes people think like the chamber is in the city or is a city office and such, right. or they are under the city government, but
no. The Beatrice and Gage County Chamber of Commerce actually operates on their own. That's one of the things they're going to have to work out. We do support from a cash contribution to NGage. State statute doesn't even allow us to contribute to the Chamber of Commerce's. So they're going to have to figure out all the finances. They're going to have to figure out their new bylaws, and they're going to have to figure out how to move forward, because they're also in a unique situation, because the Beatrice Chamber of Commerce director left for Papillion into June, And the NGage director had an opportunity to move to another job, and so her last day was October 17th, and we wish her well. So when you think about that, they're at a point in time with the merger that they have the opportunity to take a look at the workforce and find someone with the talent to really be a strong director for the new organization.
We will keep our eyes out and continue to watch this and look forward to hearing from them as they move
Absolutely.
along. You bet. We're out of time, sir.
All right.
Program over, so we'll see you again in a couple weeks then. How about that?
Yes. I was trying to think. Yeah, Eric's in. It's the 30th, the day before Halloween.
Yep. So we will see you in about 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
Have a good Halloween.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Mayor Morgan with us here on Ask the Mayor on KWVE Beatrice.